One of the tasks and the tests on our shoulders as parents is to ensure that the morality of the wider society is not infused into our community and especially into our children. When our parents may have migrated to this country, they might have moved for the betterment of healthcare, of education, just a better life in general, even safety. That was a noble intention. But for the first generation now that grows up here, our responsibility is to ensure that this cosmopolitan society that we live in, that seems to think it's at the brink of absolute technology, at the best of morality, that it's cutting edge in just about everything. Our responsibility is to ensure that the immorality and the facade that comes with it is kept away from us, our family, and especially our society. What we find through marriage is that a young man, a young woman learn to become stable in their life through the responsibilities that are brought on through marriage. Maturity in this dunya, maturity in our growth is facilitated through marriage. Learning how to treat people who are close to you. As children, when a child doesn't have responsibility, they're quite selfish in nature. They look at what affects them, and that's how they make their decisions in life. It's only when you now take the responsibility of somebody else do you have to think about the ramifications of your actions to other people as well. Take a look at an example that I wanted to give. When we go out to eat, as an example, as an individual, or even as a husband and wife, if we go out to eat, it may not faze us whether or not the restaurant sells alcohol or not. We know our red lines. We know the basic and the bare minimum is that it shouldn't be on our table. So it's quite easy to sanction it and say, let's go, we'll eat at this restaurant, there's no harm in it. There isn't any harm in terms of halal, haram, it's halal. But it's only when you add family into that scenario and environment, that the same mother and father will think twice. That they'll ask themselves that, do I want to move into that environment where this alcohol is present, even if it's halal? Because what I'm doing now is desensitizing my children to that environment which I nurtured them up in, saying that such an environment is immoral. It may not be haram, but I brought them up to say, even when you go to school fairs and you go to parties and you go to other people's houses, I want you to distance yourself from alcohol. I want you to know that it's an act which brings about just about every other sin. And for that reason, I've pushed them away, and now all of a sudden, for the facilitation of my own desire, I begin to take them to restaurants, and when they ring the alarm bells, and when they ask me that, Dad, isn't the alcohol being sold here? Then I tell them, yeah, but it's okay, it's on another table. And now all of a sudden, I begin to desensitize them to the same thing that I nurtured them up to stand up against. That thought process only comes about when the gift of children are given to a husband and wife. Because now you're not just thinking about yourself. You're not just thinking about me and my wife, two mature individuals. We're thinking about the impact that my actions have, not my words, on these children who are so impressionable because they look at me and they follow me in my actions, not in my words. Another example I'd like to give of the gift of children and how sometimes our children will see our actions and weigh out what's weighty in this life is education. Every single parent here, or parent-to-be, one of the priorities they will have in their life for their children is to ensure they have the best education. Some of our parents migrated for the sake of education. Some parents today are working overseas, earning a halal livelihood, but then using a bulk of it to ensure that their children get the best education in another university overseas, paying their accommodation fees, international school fees, all of that because they have prioritized, and for the right reasons, education, but secular education here. When our children look and they take a step back and they see the last 10 years of their life and they see how much effort we placed on secular education and how much effort we place in them learning the religion of God, don't you think they'll realize what is a priority in our life? When they see that religious education is to take place formally once a week for 3 hours, but then secular education not only 5 days a week, but tuition afterwards as well, with homework when you come home and on the weekends, it tells you where the priority is. So naturally, such a community will move towards being progressed when it comes to intellectually, academically, secularly. But when it comes to religious education, you'll find many holes. You'll find weak foundations within such a people or community. That onus doesn't lie on the member or the community. That onus lies on me as a father and a mother. Some of us migrate for education. How many do we know who migrate for the religious education of their children? To change the environment from immorality to morality. How many parents do we know that move their children from one school to the other school? Not because of academic excellence, but because they're teaching my child to be immoral with the curriculum that they're forcing down their throat. And so I'm going to pull my child out, even if it comes to them learning a little less. Even if it means that they won't excel the best, I will try and supplement that through extracurricular activities. But what I want to ensure is not that I have a child at the end of the day who comes out with flying colors and has a high-paying job. That's not my goal in life. You know what my goal is in life for my family? I don't dictate it. The whole point of being part of a religion and following immaculate leaders is that they should tell us, that God should tell me what is my duty as a parent. I shouldn't have to make it up. When I go to work, I don't want to find out what my intention to going to work is, because that's not me following a religion. A religion has to tell me in every facet of life what my goal and intention should be. So, oh God, when I get married, when I have children, what's the purpose? What should I be moving towards? What's the goal and the trajectory of me and my wife coming together at a young age? Where should we be heading? Allah tells us in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh, you who believe, this is your goal. Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Your goal as a mother, as a father, as a spouse is qu anfusakum. Protect yourselves wa ahlikum nara, and your families from the fire of hell. That's it. My child excelling in academic studies, but then failing to become a moral individual, I haven't protected them from the fire of hell. I've given them good in this life. There were people in the Quran, they say, Rabbana atina fid dunya. They don't even say hasana. They say, Rabbana atina fid dunya. They're so laser focused on the material life. And where do you think this comes from? More likely than not, it comes from their nurturing it as children. That their parents were telling them, we want you to excel. So they say, okay, God, only give us what's in the dunya. Not even the good of the dunya, what I want of the dunya. That's one group of people. And you know what God does to them? He gives them. Because if I wake up early and I work hard and I study hard just for the dunya, then God gives it to me. But then He says, don't ask me in the next life to give you. If you only want the dunya, then I'll give you more than you ask for in the dunya. But then as for the akhirah, you have nothing. You're at a loss. But then there's a group of people who say to God, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. Oh God, give us in the dunya, but only that which is good. Or fil akhirati hasana. Waqina adhab an-nar. Their goal is, God, protect me from the fire of hell.